Okay, I thought I'd start with just, 3 quick things about myself in the last 24 hours. And that's, my brain works in 3 things for some reason. And so, firstly, last night's dinner. It's always fantastic to sit down with some people who are very, very passionate about their work. They demonstrate a great deal of expertise and can share both funny stories and stories about what they do at work. And I saw that on my table, and the energy through the night went up and up and up, and I thought that was always a fantastic experience to be part of. The second one is about person-centred approaches. That hotels are great at customer service as a rule, and for me, as a person who's blind, they're always willing to help. However, when I get to my room, and because I'm blind and have a dog, I have a disability room where every basin is about knee height. The shower sort of goes everywhere because there's no boundaries to the shower and the toilet. It's not that useful. It's actually a pain in the bum. And it's that simple question of, well, let's not treat everybody the same if they've got a disability. Maybe I could ask them, would you like a disabled room? The dog certainly doesn't need it, and I don't need it. That's what I've had to put up with in the last this morning shower and shave is sort of bending over. And the third one is that I'm a passionate smartphone user. And every day I'll hop on my phone and look up something. And I don't know who around the room has got the TED Talks app, if they've got a smartphone. But I'd highly encourage everyone to get that. Last night, as I do when looking for things to do, is listen to some of the most amazing speeches that you can hear. And it's all free, it's all accessible, and it's all terrific to learn the experience. And what's relevant about it today is that I saw this TED Talk last night on a guy doing stuff in eye health with technology. And I thought, wow, that's a bit interesting to listen to it. And he talked about there's 39 million people in the world that are blind or have low vision. And most of those, as we know, are in developing countries. And the research says that 80% of those people that it's treatable or preventable. And so you have this guy called Andrew Bastoris, took it on as a bit of a mission in life to say, well, I reckon I can do something about that. And so, he packed in his family and himself over to Africa, set up a team of people, and got a whole lot of diagnostic equipment, took it all around the various parts of Africa, had to run things generally using petrol generators, and he said, I was making very little impact. You can only get to so many locations. He said the other interesting thing about Africa is that even in places where there's struggling water, he said that smartphones are more prevalent than fresh water in a lot of places in Africa. And so he said, how can we use this technology to improve the situation? And so what he did is he got some guys to develop a smartphone app to do eye tests. And not just simply sort of acuity tests. He he got somebody on a 3D printer to put out this little attachment that you can clip onto your smartphone, and which costs, I think he said it cost about $3.50 to make each one, and it could connect to the iPhone or smartphone and take retinal scans. And he said the imaging is amazingly good. And then they sort of connected to using the GPS in the phone, they connected it so they actually located where all these people were. And so that helped, they could sort of pull up a map of the country, and they had red lines where anybody that had a diagnosis, and blue lines where they could run clinics. And so all of a sudden, they're using technology to actually improve services. And I think that's what's the exciting thing about, when we're looking at video conferencing at Vision Australia. There is a real ability to think differently. There is a real ability to be able to deliver services using this technology. In the presentation today, I intend to cover an overview of the Vision Australia VCU project, where we're up to, some information about our phased approach to that, some information about where we're up to with current implementation steps, and what will be the next steps. And of course, at the end, I'm sure there'll be some time for some questions, and as I said to people last night, don't hold back. Okay, so the overview of the project. It's probably worth outlining in what's different to the VidKids video conferencing to start with. VidKids is a pilot project, whereas the Vision Australia video conferencing unit is a project to set up something that is here to stay. Vision Australia's equipment is designed for multiple purposes. It's designed to be used for internal use and for clients, whereas the VidKids is very much a client-based process. VidKids has funding for project management, has funding for technical support, has funding to purchase the equipment at Vision Australia, but also for clients, as you know, and has funded for the service providers to provide that service. The Vision Australia VCU project has had equipment funding only at this point. Not to say that there's not other opportunities, but at this point we've got funding from a range of government, trust and foundations to actually purchase equipment, which is a big first step. In VidKids, families have strict eligibility about who can participate and who can't. That's set by government. Where we're moving to with the Vision Australia project is that we'll determine the eligibility. It'll be up to us to look at what's best for our clients. And with VidKids, as I talked about earlier, equipment is supplied by them. So there's some very structured, they can purchase the top of the range laptop or the top of the range video camera, internet access, everything. The Vision Australia video conference unit isn't generally going to do that. It'll rely on people having technology themselves. And so that's probably one of the hurdles that we need to come up with a solution. And finally, around technical support, people that are aware of VidKids, is that they've got a dedicated support function that can provide real-time support in setting up the video conferencing sessions. So if something goes wrong, there's somebody to call. Vision Australia doesn't have that at this point. We have some support, and I'll talk about that down the track. So with the project, we've phased it into 3 distinct phases. And the first one is for internal use, which I'll talk about each of these in a second. And the second one is from Vision Australia to other organisations that have video conferencing. And the third phase is from Vision Australia to clients for service provision. Why implementing phases? It's simply that we want the video conferencing service to be a good client experience, and there's some fundamentals that we need to get in place before we can guarantee that what we're intending to do actually will work. So where are we up to with phase 1? Phase 1 was about setting up the equipment. So we've got 26 out of 28 sites with the equipment installed, and staff having some training within those sites. The 2 sites are Wollongong and Lismore haven't been set up yet, and that's because they were after a wall-mounted system where the trolley that was supplied didn't work, and so that's just waiting for that to happen. There's 12 desktop licenses set up. That means on people's computers they can access the video conferencing directly. And some of those people are the general manager, so they can speak to sites, and a couple of other people. Training continues. There's another session I know 3 p.m. this Thursday. So if there's people at your site that do need some training, contact John Rankin and he'd be able to help support them. There's been some user guides. So how to book a meeting and how to use the video conferencing. There's some user guides that are on SharePoint, and I very much encourage people to look at those. And they should have been emailed to your site. The outstanding issues for phase 1 is that we still need to set up a feature that is unique to the Vision Australia video conferencing unit, where somebody that wants to link in on a video conference but isn't at the site and wants to just link in and hear the audio via Polycom. So if you would imagine that we're running a video conference here, and some of the people may be at home, and they're saying, look, I really want to hear the content of it, I'm happy not to see the picture. We're going to have it so that someone can use their telephone and link into the video conferencing session. There's a little bit more work about the Microsoft Link integration. That's just a platform. Some of it's been done, and some of it we'll do that, and that just will add just a little bit more functionality to how it works. For phase 1, I'd really strongly start encouraging people to use it. There's no reason why teams can't link in other teams for a team meeting. There's no reason why that you can't use it if you're doing a professional development topic and say, hey, anyone wants to join, you can link into a session that's run out of our site. Or simply, you want to have a face-to-face peer discussion with your colleagues. And there'd be no reason why you couldn't, if you did, you're working with a client and a family at one of your sites, and you wanted to link in a provider from another site, and where both sites are in Vision Australia, that just couldn't happen. So, think laterally. The technology's there, it's there to be used, and go for it. Phase 2, organisation to organisation. The purpose of this is just simply to link Vision Australia to another organisation. That could be for capacity building, or it could be for some client service delivery where the client has gone to another organisation, or it could be where it's just a case discussion. The important part is that the other organisation has fully functioning video conferencing capability, and they have their own technical support. And the reason why that's phase 2 is that it's a controlled environment. We've got one organisation that has a system set up that's got the controlled support, and we've got a second organisation that's in the same place. So if there's a technical issue, it's unlikely that it's probably more going to be that one-off unknown issue about we're having trouble connecting because the internet bandwidth is not big enough or blah blah blah. But we know that both organisations have that capability. We're currently doing some tests in that, so I know that in Queensland we're looking at doing a three-way conference between the client, the Department of Health in Queensland and Vision Australia. And so, it's not always as simple as you think, because with our video conferencing unit, we bought one that had the biggest connectivity with the biggest range of video conferencing protocols. But, the other organisation may be using a protocol that we've never used before. But I support, are certainly keen at looking at how they can help set up the dogs decided to go for a bit of a wander for some reason. Whilst we've got the widest range of protocols, ISG are really keen on trying to understand the capabilities of their system. What we haven't got is that real-time support that, I'm trying to connect with this particular person, or this particular organisation, and it's not working because we don't know why. What they would do is simply work with the other provider to say, okay, what do we need to do to get our two systems working together, and then do a test with that. And so then when it comes to you guys actually connecting, that's all worked out, and so it should go just as smoothly as it would for connecting site to site. And so there is, as I said, a couple of things happening in that space, and that will continue to grow. Phase 3, which I'm sure this is the area that people are most interested in, it is Vision Australia, to client, full service provision. This is very much the most challenging of the three phases. And, as I said earlier, it needs the most significant work to actually ensure that we're going to get a good client experience. The areas of focus, that need attention is service design. And fortunately, children's services are, because of the Big Kids project, are absolutely leading the way. We all know that just by providing the technology, that's not good enough to actually provide a good service client experience. You've actually got to modify your service provision to work. And so, whereas for other services, so for adult services, the service design needs a lot more work. And the decision is that this will be linked with the work around person-centred services, out of business transformation, is to say, okay, when we're looking at new ways of doing things, video conferencing needs to be integrated into that. Just as a method, it's simply another method. And so the work will be is to ensure that when we're looking at introducing new things, one of the questions will be, how does this work with video conferencing? And for adults, it's going to be a whole new paradigm. For family and children, most of the time, whilst we're working, within someone's home, most of the time we're working with a sighted parent, I would imagine. Not all the time, but most of the time. And so, you guys are used to saying, well, if you need to be able to help with any technical support, is click here. Go, can you see the button in the top right corner? When we start dealing with adults, and especially adults that had very low vision and are using screen readers or are blind, it's not only a matter of, pick up the mouse, click here. It's actually, well, okay, what we need to do is use your assistive technology. So, okay, if you press Alt F and then go to this tab and then press enter on that, that should get you going. And so there's a different level of skill required both from the service provider and a different thinking of how we do technical support. And so whether that's linked to the AT help desk or whether it's done in the capacity building of the service providers themselves, that's a hurdle that we've got to get over. And some people say, why do we have a service design that for a blind person to use video conferencing? It doesn't make sense. But it's more from an observation point of view. An OT might be able to observe somebody doing something and provide some recommendation there and there on the spot. That, particularly for those people that are very remote. The other area is staff competency. As we talked about, services, all that, our staff are competent about delivering services, but not necessarily delivering services over video conferencing. And again, children's services, those people that have been involved in Big Kids, I would believe they're competent and they've learnt a lot. We've got to work on technology standards for those clients. And, the thinking is, because we're not supplying the equipment, we can be a little bit more flexible. It might be around, we can push the boundaries a bit and use tablets or use phones to do that connectivity. But there's some of the things that we need to test. And then, even if we get the technology right, so yes, we've got the bandwidth right, we've got a smartphone that has some appropriate camera and it's all, that it's working well. It might be that we're saying, we'll learn that, okay, that will work for this type of service. It may work for, say, like a counselling service, or it may not work for a particular other type of service. And getting some learnings around that will be very important. And also with that is to say, well, is there other bits of other things that we need? So with a tablet, to make it work properly, we need to ensure that the person has a stand so that it stands up straight. So we're not looking at the ceiling all the time. And certainly what I talked about earlier is that we need to work out a model that in the service design that supports real-time technical support. So we would expect service providers to have a level of competency, but we know, especially when we're dealing with very unstructured frameworks within people's homes, technical frameworks within people's homes, we need a way that we can say, is this going to work or isn't it going to work? The next thing, for those people that are interested in, preparing themselves to be able to use video conferencing for non-VidKids clients, probably my suggestions are as follows. Become a VidKids provider. There's 7 people on the waiting list at the moment. The VidKids has got the technology, and it has got the technical support, and we have a service model. So, if you want to say, well, I want to get those skills up myself, becoming a VidKids service provider is certainly a great way to do it. Complete the video conferencing training modules. So on the intranet, Tracy, there's 2 or 3 modules around video conferencing?
There's 4.
4.
Yeah. The fourth one is the coaching and facilitated practice. So it's sort of a higher level. The other 3 are more around the actual technical part of this, working with VC.
Yeah, I mean, because to do those, it will be important because, it's not as simple as just, thinking that I'm going to connect with the client. It's about, how do I have the right practice and how do I learn about problem solving. Share your learnings. So talk to the VidKids people about what they've learned, and if you become a VidKids person, talk, share what your experience is, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what am I having challenges with, what do I need to resolve. Get proficient at solving simple technical errors. And that's both using the VidKids VC environments, but also using site to site. So the more you can use it internally, the more comfortable you'll feel about, well, if it doesn't quite go right, I know what to do. And so that when it comes to delivering services to clients, you're not in a fluster because things aren't working. For those people that are VidKids providers, put your hand up to do some tests. So I know that Natalie's currently doing one, Trisha's currently doing one, about looking at, we're looking at doing 5 or 6 simple ways how we can, those people that do have the competency in delivery, to actually trial it in different settings and look at the learnings on the new system. In conclusion, I'd like to just simply say that, I think Vision Australia is in a great position for the future to deliver services, using this technology base. We now have technical ability, thanks to the VidKids project. We understand what the technical challenges are. We understand what the technical requirements are, and we understand what we need to get in place. We've had great learnings about service delivery through VidKids. We know about how to deliver services. We've got a range of staff that are competent in delivering services that we can use both as mentors to around other services, as well as rely on them to assist where we can. But finally, and very importantly, a real willingness to use the technology in service delivery. I think that when a few years ago we had a position where I don't see how we can provide services using video conferencing. It's a pipe dream. I think that those providers around VidKids have proved it's not a pipe dream, it's actually reality. So now I can open it up to questions. Thank you.
Chris, my question is about how accessible the VCUs are for use by blind and low vision staff. For example, the VidKids VCEs, the Link program that we use, is partially accessible for JAWS users in that some of the additional functions like whiteboard and screen sharing aren't available, but a JAWS user can certainly run a session with a client or a colleague completely independently. Can you tell us how that will be done using the VCUs?
Okay. There's probably a couple of answers to that. One is that I think for those service providers that are assistive technology users, there's no reason why we couldn't work with them and set up a desktop license so that it has the same functionality. But also with the room-based systems, we have looked at accessibility. The challenge is that there was no system in its own right from a room-based one that was fully accessible, unfortunately. But using MS Link, there's a couple of techniques that we can use to get that up and running. You can actually, and I'm not sure where this function's up to at the moment, but one of the functions that the room-based systems provide using MS Link is that we can actually schedule an appointment with an Outlook and go to that room and turn on the video conferencing unit, and it will automatically log into that session when you book the hardware, the room, and the thing. So the virtual room. So, but for providers that will end up doing using that a lot of service provision, I think that it may be looking at a desktop system for them.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody on the phone want to ask a question?
No, thank you.
Where's Trish? Trish was up all night thinking of questions.
Trish was coming up with the hard ones.
This is a really hard one, Chris.
Oh, excellent.
Is it expected that everyone will need to be sort of trained in using it? Is the expectation across the organisation that everybody will be competent, or is it just going to be those who are willing to do it?
I don't think the answer is either. I think the answer is that there will be an expectation that we can deliver services using this technology. How many people that will involve is probably a service design issue and B a demand issue. So if it's a service that's taken up and very effective, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't maximise the number of people that have that capability. But is it everybody? It's probably unlikely.